Angiyona imbongi kodwa ngivumeleni ngiyihaye lenkondlo ngembokodo. Ukudalwa kowesimame kwakufanele isiphetho sempilo esamukelwe noma kwakuthiwa izwi lesimame alivunyelwe abanye bethi livunyelwe kodwa linyamalele kanti cha alinyamalele lisaqambalele lisacabanga icebo lokuciba elicacile lavuka necebo elithi umndeni uvikeleke umphakathi ukhululeke isizwe siphumelele. Angiyona imbongi kodwa ngivumeleni ngiyihaye lagubuka lagubhazela lashabasheka uthinta imbokodo uyafana nothinta into abayasesiyoni engenakuzanyazanyiswa. Angiyona imbongi kodwa ngivumeleni ngiyihaye lenkondlo mbokodo ginqika ugile izigilamkhuba ezigiya zigijime zigigitheke phezu kwamalungelo abantu. Angiyona imbongi kodwa ngivumeleni ngiyihaye lenkondlo asazi kodwa ithemba lisekhona sidlwengula sibulawa sizophumelela nalabo esibathembile ukuthi basivikele asibazi bahamba kuphi bayanqikaza. Ginqika mbokodo ungakhathali ginqika ufike esidlangalaleni uzikhulumele uzimele. Angiyona imbongi kodwa ngivumeleni ngihaye lenkondlo ngembokodo. Women of South Africa asiwafuze amaqhawekazi ethu ango-1956 alwa aginqika kwazi kwaphuma isiqubule sithi wathinta abafazi
wathinta imbokodo
wathinta abafazi
wathinta imbokodo.
Angiyona imbongi kodwa ngiyabonga ukuthi ningivumele ngihaye lenkondlo ngembokodo.
Good morning to all viewers and listeners out there. Dumacheloni, Abusheng, Dumelang, More, Tobel. I would like to first thank my Freedom Park colleagues who, besides the deadly pandemic, the COVID-19, went all out to ensure that it does not stop us from executing our mandate to commemorate the heroines of South Africa's struggle for humanity and freedom. Freedom Park has been established by our democratic government to be a place of representing our past, commemorating our treacherous road to democracy, and to reflect on contemporary challenges facing our society. As a national heritage site, Freedom Park is a one-stop shop about all that is South African, our spirituality, our culture, our heritage, our history, and our indigenous knowledge systems, which constitute a substratum of our identity. This year's commemoration is held under the theme, Generation Equality, Realizing Women's Right for an Equal Future. The significance of Women's Day has become synonymous with women's rights. It is unfortunate that till this day, women still are subjected to fight for their freedom and their rights. As much as this day is recognized to honor those who contributed to the freedom struggle, we still have a long way to go in fighting for the freedom of women. This is attested by the horrible events that unfold on daily basis that relates to women abuse at both emotional and physical levels. During the COVID-19 lockdown, the country has experienced a spike in the killing of women, which remains yet again a sad story in violation of women's rights. The issue of equal right has been a song since the eras of colonialization, apartheid, and now our democratic society. However, there is still a huge discord in this song, whereby women remain victims in all aspects of human rights. To date, there is still a call from all gender-based organizations to recognize women in leadership across all spheres. One example is the call for the gender pay gap, whereby women are subjected to lower salary wages where they held similar positions as their male counterparts. Throughout history, the central role of women in society has ensured stability, progress, and long-term development of nations. Yet, despite these known returns, women still face many barriers in contributing to and benefiting to developmental initiatives. Women in our country continue to be constrained by cultural, social, and economic barriers that hinder their participation in the economy. To address these challenges, we can learn from our past, from those who came before us. One page of our past is the historic march which took place on this day, led by women. It was on this day in 1956 that our mothers and grandmothers took it upon themselves to march to the Union Building to hand over a petition to J.G. Strijdom, the then Prime Minister of the apartheid government, against the introduction of the past law against black women. To mention but a few, some of these brave women on this day were Lilian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Ida Mtwana, Florence Maposho, Sophia De Bruyn, and many more others. In line with Freedom Park's mandate, most of these heroines of the liberation struggle have been memorialized here at Freedom Park, where their names have been engraved on the wall of names. Over and above these names, we have inscribed many other names of women who contributed in the struggle for freedom and humanity in different ways. Amongst others here, we talk about Mayor Miriam Makeba, Winnie Mandela, Queen Mantatise, Charlotte Maxeke, Ruth First, and many others. Mama Maxeke, for example, was the first African woman in South Africa to attain a Bachelor of Science. She was a theologian in the Methodist Church and was one of the few women who was present when the South African Native National Congress, now called the ANC, was formed. Furthermore, she was an author who wrote and published about the social and political situation of women, where she urged women to intervene in the political arena and to be the leaders of change. This message, I believe, is still relevant today. It is evident that there is a need for a gender revolution that puts women at the center of development by offering them free access to educational infrastructures and opportunities. All this will ensure that women play a critical role on the labor market and significantly contribute to overall socioeconomic development. Putting women at the center of development will not only result in the realization of women's rights, gender equality, social justice, but will also contribute to sustainable economic development. As we remember the role that was played by the women of 1956 and many others who bequeathed the freedom that we enjoy today, Freedom Park will also like to honor the many women who are in the front line of the battle against the current global enemy to humanity, the COVID-19 pandemic. It is due to this enemy that we have a new world order which dictates how the society should behave to protect humanity from this scourge. Hence, this event is being conducted digitally instead of it being a live event. We would like to also honor these women who are victims of gender-based violence. We join many other voices and make a clarion call to all South Africans not to shy away when you see another woman being a victim of gender-based violence or any other form of violence. I wish you all well out there as you celebrate this day. Stay safe, maintain social distancing, sanitize, and always wear your mask. Watinta bafazi, watinta imbokodo. Ndiaribu.
Early on Monday morning, police arrest my mother for for a black community. And Monday afternoon, I went to see my brother, and the policeman, he treated me like a donkey. And I said to the policeman, you've got a bad attitude, bad attitude. I'm no criminal, oh no, I'm a good black woman. And I said to the policeman, you've got a bad attitude, mama, tula 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 mama, oh tula mama, 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 tula mama.
It gives me great pleasure and it is a privilege to be addressing you on this very important occasion, which marks the march by women from all over the country, women of different races who marched against the unjust laws of carrying a pass under the apartheid regime in South Africa. I am honored to be here, albeit under very unprecedented circumstances where we meet each other via technologies. However, I want to salute all of you who are receiving this message and thank you for the time that you have taken to mark this day that is very symbolic in the history of our country. The march by women on the 9th of August, 1956, symbolized what is a basic yearning and a basic human right, which is the right to be free. This right cannot be taken for granted because underpinning this right is a recognition that all human beings, regardless of their color, their sexual orientation, their wealth, their political affiliation, are free and equal. So it is very symbolic that Freedom Park is celebrating this day because the yearning for freedom is also an assertion that everybody matters and matters equally. And I think as we celebrate this year, and in this country as we celebrate this month that we have dubbed Women's Month, I also want to remind all of us that in fact, the 9th of August 1956, or the month of August, is not only the only time that women have made a contribution to the struggle for freedom in South Africa. So one of the tasks that all of us ought to engage on is to re-look at our history and rewrite the history to also include her story. Because for as long as we do not recognize the contribution of many women that have contributed to our freedom, we will only relegate their contribution to the march on the 9th of August 1956. As significant as that march was, as symbolic as it was, and as important as it is during this period that we celebrate the march, it is also important to remember that women have and continue to contribute to creating a just and equal and free society today. So you and I are sitting here today as the beneficiaries of the Women's March of 1956 and the many sacrifices that women made even before 1956 and after 1956. Some of us are sitting here on the shoulders of our mothers and our grandmothers who were domestic workers, who used the little that they earned to look after families while the men were toiling in the mines of South Africa, the mines that have built the wealth that they did not get to enjoy. So we need to ask ourselves, as we celebrate Women's Month in 2020, a year where globally we are locked down in different ways, some of us locked down with our abusers, about what this day symbolizes and what it teaches us. So I just want to share with you just a few things that Women's Day has taught us or has taught me, in the hope that it will also help you reflect about what this day means to you. So for me, it has taught me that indeed my struggle is intertwined with the struggle of many other women. My freedom and my attainment of success, of wealth, means nothing when other women in this country and indeed in the world do not enjoy whatever freedom that I enjoy. And in fact, when you look at the statistics of gender-based violence in South Africa, you do realize that it knows no class. It knows no social standing. Any woman, but especially the poor and women living with disabilities, can and are subject to gender-based violence. So what that teaches me is that, like the women in 1956 who marched as a collective, my voice needs to be joined with the voice of other women. I need to speak up on behalf and with other women against the injustices that we continue to suffer from. The March of 9 August 1956 also teaches me that freedom is not an event. Freedom is an ongoing and, dare I say, daily consciousness of how my actions on a daily basis advances my freedom and the freedom of others, or impedes my freedom and the freedom of others. Now, all of us have certain amounts of power, although it is not the same. And therefore, if you are a woman in a position of power and you celebrate this day, one of the questions that you need to ask yourself on a daily basis is how, in honoring the women of 1956, you are advancing not only your freedom, but the freedom of other women as well. How, when women report sexual harassment, whether in your own workplace or in other workplaces, even on social media, are you quick to ask, what was she wearing? What did she do? No, this man will not do it. Or is your stance one of believing the woman who speaks out? Understanding that it is our silence that colludes with the oppressor, And unless all of us can own our voice and speak out against harassment, even when we are scared to do so, even when it is uncomfortable for us to do so, that we need to rally together and support those who speak out against injustice. Some have claimed that freedom has not arrived for women of South Africa. I have personally made those assertions. However, we cannot go and not celebrate and recognize the many advances that many women have made in this country. But the question still remains, does political representation advance and improve the lives of women in this country? As women in positions of leadership, what have we done to change the institutions and the boardrooms and the seats of power that we occupy? Or how have we arrived and instead of disrupting the status quo, we have colluded with the status quo to keep other women out, and in some instances were also used as weapons to silence other women. So for me, the March of 1956, especially during this period of lockdown, when we still see in South Africa that even during this period, those that will suffer the most are women that are poor, many of them Black, living in marginalized communities, a lot of them disabled, who are going to bear the brunt of our response to lockdown. Therefore, this period for me is a period of reflection around what does my leadership mean as a woman who is standing on the shoulders of the women of 1956. What this also tells me is that while we cannot, during this COVID-19, be in the street and march, our actions as we celebrate the 9th of August 1956 is to gather and support each other in very different ways. So movements globally like Me Too need our support to speak out about the injustices that we still suffer from. And as I said earlier, support the women who do so. Movements in South Africa like Sue Us All, We Are Done Talking, are also a reminder that even in our country, even in our body politic, in various industries, the entertainment industry, the NGO industry, government, women still need to speak out about the injustices that they are facing, even when in some instances they are 50% of the women that are either in parliament or in different leadership positions. It is not enough that we have been given a seat at the table, especially if that table is toxic, especially if that table continues to oppress us. So we should not be comfortable that we've got a seat at the table. We need to ask ourselves whether the meal that is being put at the table is healthy for our emotional, physical, economic, and political well-being. We need to be inspired by the many young women across this country who, when Madikizela Mandela died, and again the media and some in our society wanted to vilify her, the women, young women in this country stood up and say, I am Nomzamo. They stood up and said, she did not die and she multiplied. Those activities that women without any political affiliation, and it did not matter which political group came from, inspire me to say that we need to transcend what divides us and really work towards what unites us. That, like the women who said she did not die, she multiplied. Let us multiply the efforts of the women of 9 August 1956. Let us also recognize the contribution of women whose names will never make the history books. The women like our grandmothers, the women like our mothers, women who are sex workers, women who will make a contribution and not find the benefit of a position of power in their lives. The women who continue to raise children on their own. The women who are now locked down with their abusers, and they are staying there and sitting there because nobody can hear their voice. So during this period, let us also recommit that no woman will be left behind, that our efforts will be to continue speaking truth to power and making sure that our freedom is not complete until each and every woman, girl, older woman, poor woman, disabled woman, trans woman, lesbian woman, non-gender conforming woman is free in this country. Yes, we've got laws, but what do those laws mean when some of our women, even last night or even tonight, will not know what they are going to eat or how they are going to feed their children? What do laws mean when women cannot access justice? What do freedom mean? What do laws mean when women are still paid less than what men earn for the same amount of work or similar work? So let us use this period to reflect very deeply around what our contribution is going to be in the fight for freedom, which is not an event, but an ongoing process. In the way that we live our lives on a daily basis, let us ask ourselves, are we free? And what does our freedom mean when the woman across the road, the woman we know, the woman we get to meet on social media is not free? What are we willing to compromise? Or are we too comfortable in patriarchy to not challenge, even when other women are speaking out and are saying we can't breathe? How are we supporting those that speak out, but they are not the so-called decent women? What do we do when society vilifies them and asks them, what were you wearing? What were you doing? What about this behavior? What about that behavior? Indeed, what about it? Did we not learn from the struggle against apartheid how systems of discrimination will divide us and make us believe that some are better than others? Did we not learn how they used tribalism to divide us so that Umtswana will think that they are better than Umshangani? Zulu will think that they are the ones that are chosen and they are better than Xhosa. If apartheid persisted by dividing us, and we know that it is when Black people, not only in South Africa, but across the diaspora, united to defeat apartheid, let us not let patriarchy, which is another form of unjust system, divide us as women. I am every woman that speaks up. I am the sex worker that is in the street. I am the woman that has been vilified because they dared speak out. I am Kwezi, the woman who spoke power to a powerful man who became the president of this country. I am Nomzamo, the woman who both the apartheid system and some of her comrades dared to break. I am every woman who dares speak up, because my freedom means nothing unless all the voices of women are listened to. I recognize that where I am sitting right now is a position of privilege. I am privileged to be alive. I am privileged to have had food in my stomach. I am privileged to have access to technology and data that enables me to speak to you. I am privileged that I know where my children are at this moment. I am privileged because there is food in my home. I am privileged because I am relatively healthy. And this privilege and this freedom was not free. I stand on the shoulders of my own mother, my grandmother, and many other women out there whose names will not be remembered. Many women whose tears are never seen. Many women whose pain is so deep that all they do is smile, because if they started talking and they started acknowledging their pain, they would go crazy. I stand on the shoulders of many women whose names will never be known. And unless I do what I can in my little corner to make sure that I speak out against any injustice that any other woman faces, unless I do so, I am a fraud, and all of my privileges are fraudulent. Because how can I enjoy what I have when another woman who's got the same abilities as me, by the mere fact that they are human, cannot enjoy? For every one of us who have achieved anything in the world, there's thousands of others whose circumstances did not enable them to achieve what we have. So our freedom and our achievements mean nothing when they. So on this Women's Day, we celebrate the women of 1956, but we deeply reflect around how we will continue marching. And our marches may not be in the streets today, but we continue to march. For as long as women are oppressed, we continue to march. Our voice is the shoes that we will wear to march. We will use our voice to multiply and make sure that we are not silenced. I thank you.
This song is called Sekwanele. And as a nation we say, Sekwanele with the femicide, Sekwanele with the violence, Sekwanele with the abuse against women and children. Let us unite in South Africa. Let us unite for the future of our children. Let us live in harmony. Let us unite in our land. Let us unite in South Africa. Let us unite for the future of our children. Let us live. Let us live
unite in our land.
Let us
resort to work
Let's
together.
work together.
All nations
I know that we can do it.
we get it right.
Oh, let us resort
to work.
Come, let's work together.
All nations
'Cause I believe that we can do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Say in Africa, Jelemut Samstan.
yeah,
Make sure we create an environment that is friendly for women and children. Yeah, what's gonna do?
what's gonna do?
We gotta work together and make sure we do it right. Can we do it? Can we do it? Yeah, what's gonna do?
what's gonna do?
Oh,
Yebo.
Yebo.
Bambisana yebo.
Yebo.
Oh la 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 na yebo.
Yebo. Yebo sinakwenza.
Yebo, yebo, yebo.
Yebo.
Yebo, yebo,
Yebo.
Yebo, singakwenza,
Yebo.
Yebo.
Yebo sinakwenza. Yebo. 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 Yebo sinakwenza. Yebo. 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 Yebo sinakwenza. Sekwanele.
Masakeni Africa.
Masakeni
Sonke
izolethu.
siphila kuyo.
Sonke siphila kuyo.
Sekwanele.
Sekwanele.
Masakeni izwe lethu.
Masakeni izwe
Sonke
lethu.
siphila kulo.
Sonke siphila kulo.
Sekwanele.
Sekwanele.
Masakeni izwe lethu.
Masakeni izwe lethu. Sonke siphila kulo. Sekwanele. Masakeni izwe lethu. Sonke siphila kulo.
oh, each group must sacrifice just a little for the future of our children. Can we do it? Yes, I know we can. Can we do it? Yes, I know we can do it. Each group must sacrifice just a little for the future of our children. I know that we can do it. I know we can do it if we do it right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I know that we can do it.
Yes.
We can do it.
We can do it. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can do it.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
We can do it.
We can do it. Yes, we can.
we can.
And with this song, we want to encourage women everywhere in the world that when we're going through what we're going through, Put your trust in God, and through it all, let Him console you.
Oh Lord, I've seen your hand
Over me.
over me.
Sing, Lord, I've seen your blood.
Oh Lord, I've seen your blood
Covering me in all the depths of the earth.
covering me.
And Lord, I've seen your favor.
Oh Lord, I've seen your favor.
For 1,000 have fallen by my left and 10,000 by my right.
Oh,
But it has not come. Come on, choir. Say it again. Sing, oh Lord, I've seen your hand.
Lord, I've seen your hand
I've seen your hand all over me. I've seen your hand covering me.
over me.
Sing, Lord, I've seen your blood, Lord Jesus.
Oh Lord, I've seen your blood
When you hung on the cross and sacrificed your life, I saw mine come together.
covering me.
And Lord, I've seen your favor.
Oh Lord, I've seen your favor
Encompassing me all the days of my life.
over me.
And in the book of Psalms 34, in verses 1, the psalmist says, I will bless the Lord at all times, and His praises shall continually be in my lips. He continues on and he says, bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless His holy name.
Hallelujah.
See, because of his knowledge of God, he instructs himself and he says, I will bless the Lord. Lord, as we look back on the journey that we have overtaken, we have come to realize that it is not by power, not by might, but by your Spirit that we have made it this far, Lord. Through the tests and the trials, and the challenges that life has brought our way. You continue to make a way when there's no way, Lord. And we lift up our eyes unto the hills, from where cometh our help. For our help cometh from the Lord. Hey, Jesus.
To worship Him.
And in all these things, we've learned to look upon you.
To trust in Him.
Brother Bongani, if you come to the front and begin to testify of this God who is becoming our shield of all time. You help me up, Jesus.
When the storm was heavy,
Your righteous hand, you help me up.
when I was down and out,
And you did it again, you help me up.
when I was hungry and fallen, who could go and heal my love? He said the way. Who could go and heal my love? He made everywhere. Who could go and heal my love? He said the way. Who could go and heal my love? He made everywhere. Who could go and heal my love? He said the way. Who could go and heal my love? He made everywhere. Who could go and heal my love? He said the way. Who could go and heal my love? He made everywhere. Who could go and heal my love? He said the way.
sesifikile sikhathi semvuselelo iyaqitheka njengamani imvuselelo phasomandla yethu sona sesifikile bangcwele sikhathi semvuselelo emhlabeni wonke yageleta yona njengamani imvuselelo phasomandla yethu sona sesifikile bangcwele kuyisona sikhathi semvuselelo vuselelo ke emhlabeni wonke yahamba yageleta yona njengamani imvuselelo vuselelo ke makube nenhlokomo umthana wezinsuku wedlelana iyaqitheka njengamani nevuselelo yebo-ke makube nenhlokomo lana emazulu akhona lana namuhla yemakhasaya iyaqitheka njengamani nemvuseleli lethi thembana namuhla yethu makube nenhlokomo lana yandalama shata ejesu moya kwenu iyaqitheka njengamani ivuselelo vuselelo ke iyaqitheka njengamani nemvuselelo kamoya ongcwele ivuselelo iyaqitheka emhlabeni simakhathi ukhona lana uyibukile le ndaba yakho vuselelo ke makube nenhlokomo lana yajesu iyandalama shaka moya ongcwele siyabonga iyaqitheka njengamani imvuselelo vuselelo ke hey nemvuselelo kamoya ongcwele inethi themba yebo-ke nemvuselelo yesethembiso seyifikile emhlabeni wonke iyavuselela makube nenhlokomo lana yajesu umdala wesisuku wedlelana yebo jesu iyaqitheka njengamani sithathene nathi imvuselelo-ke makube nenhlokomo emazulu ayisukumele yebo lenkinga yakho Hallelujah, yeboke. Moyonkwe. Hello. Shakata Makasaya. Jesus. He. Hallelujah. Siyabonga mthala wesisuku ke. Hey boy. Thala wesisuku. Uyakaleta wena mathanza yebo ke. Makube nenhloko molana. uNkulunkulu wahlelelana. Yebo, iyachitheka njengamanzi. Ivuselelo kaJesu ke. Makube nenhloko molana. Amazulu akhona lana namuhla. Yebo, iyachitheka njengamanzi. Ivuselelo kamoya ongcwele. Makube nenhloko. Umdala wesisuku wahlelelana. Iyachitheka njengamanzi. Uselelo. Hallelujah. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Dumelang. From the onset, let me thank the Freedom Park CEO, Mrs. Jane Mufamadi, and her team for ensuring that the Women's Day event takes place despite the COVID-19 challenges. We've heard the saying, you strike a woman, you strike a rock. You will be crushed. Lest we forget. We will forever remember the 20,000 triumphant entry at the Union Building by women who simply refused and resisted subjugation. I take this opportunity today to thank them for their heroic efforts and thus changing the trajectory of the struggle of liberation. I am in awe of our government and would like to thank their leadership. That does not undermine the women's struggles and the contribution they made to the liberation of our country. It is days like Women's Day that make us at Freedom Park feel purposeful. We ponder and we reimagine how best the people of this country should often reminisce on the pivotal role and sacrifices that women of this country played and indeed still continue to play for the betterment of our communities. I take this opportunity to thank the women of this country as they continue to stand tall despite all the obstacles that confront them on a daily basis. We can never thank enough the 20,000 women who marched through the Union buildings in 1956. Freedom Park saw it befitting to thank them, not just through events, but with our deeds. In our internationally acclaimed Strijdom Museum, a space is dedicated that features a permanent exhibition that narrates a story of the 1956 Women's March. Furthermore, these women are honored and are appreciated in some of the most prestigious elements, such as the Gallery of Leaders and the Wall of Names.
We are commemorating National Women's Day under very unusual circumstances due to COVID-19. Despite these trying times, the Freedom Park Council, the management and staff members, but in particular the organizers of this event, rose to the occasion. They soldiered on to ensure that Freedom Park never misses an opportunity to celebrate such a momentous occasion, the National Women's Day. I want to thank our organizers. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our partners, Mr. Becky Langa, the executive manager of the Tshwane Gospel Choir, as well as Mrs. Lebogang Ramafoko, the CEO of the Takane Atlantic Fellows of Health Equity. Lastly, but certainly not least, I thank the people of this country for their continued support. Our followers on all our social media platforms, we appreciate you all. Thank you.